One of the big frameworks I think that we were aware of always is who's included and who's excluded. So it's really an issue of power. And that happens, in the big church, who's seen, whose voice gets heard. And that's ethnically, socioeconomically, gender. I mean, it's all those things. Who's in, who's out. The whole food example was, really an issue of who's included, who's excluded by how we're going to do food. Not just what kinds of food we're going to eat. It's more of who's invited to the table. And so we look at many of the stories where Jesus is eating with tax collectors and sinners, and he's breaking bread with folks. And we realize that sometimes it has to do with ethnicity and economics, but sometimes tax collectors and prostitutes in some ways could make a living in those days, and a good one, right? Tax collectors. And so it wasn't so much about economics, but it was much more about their standing in society. So there's a lot of ways to cut it, but in the end it was about who got included and who got excluded from community. And so that's kind of our working framework. And so we're always trying to be aware of that, whether that's in big church or in a meeting. Mary Kate Morse's book on physical space has been very important to us. That those who kind of speak louder and speak often take up more space and therefore have more power, or wield more power. And so we're very conscious. There are certain Latino cultures and Asian cultures where the rhythm of conversation is different, and you need pauses in order to speak. So we're conscious of that, and so we'll actually ask people who haven't shared, would you like to share anything, because that needs to be drawn out for some people. A lot of it's cultural. I think on the flip side, there are Latinos and African Americans for whom we're just way too quiet. That there isn't kind of the place to be more exuberant in expressing. That's much more kind of their cultural leanings. So we're still working through that. How do we make space for everybody, and how they communicate, how they express their worship to God?